And let's bring our next storyteller, Nadia.
Just going to try to talk and see how it goes. There's so many different reasons why people become immigrants. Safety, security, freedom, better opportunities. My parents came to America to find me a man. Let me back up. I was born in Soviet Union in the late 70s in Kiev in a Ukrainian Jewish family. When I was a teenager in the early 90s, Soviet Union was falling apart and many Jewish families were immigrating. My parents couldn't decide whether to go or to stay. Their biggest dream was to have their only daughter marry a nice Jewish boy and give them grandchildren. At that time, guys, I need to give you a visual. I looked like a before version, before heroine, of a very heteronormative romantic comedy of the early 90s. Imagine bushy hair, a unibrow, very thick glasses, very nerdy and very awkward. And so my parents looked at me and then assessed all of their families, all of their friends that had boys, Jewish boys, who were leaving. And so the available Jewish men were very scarce. And they decided to hold a family concilium, international family meeting. I had one uncle in Israel and one uncle in the United States, in Skokie. And they were deciding where to go and whether to go. So in Israel, of course, they had a lot of Jewish boys right there. Skokie was claiming to be the highest number of per capita Jews after New York. But they also didn't have mandatory army service. And so we decided to move. In 1993, we came to America. A couple of years later, my parents started to panic. I am still very awkward, and I'm still very nerdy, with no boyfriend and no prospect of one. No unibrow, though. And no glasses. And another family meeting is called. And now my uncle in Israel has an upper hand. Why? Because he has a daughter whom he just recently married, his only daughter. So he says, send her to me, give me 3 weeks. I'm going to send her back and she's going to be engaged. So off I go. 1995 in the summer with my grandmother as a chaperone. We go to Israel to find me a husband. There's a secret, though. I was already in love. Not with a man, but with a place. You see, when you lose a country that you're born in, and then you lose one that it becomes something, and then you don't feel comfortable in a place that you're living, you don't feel at home, you look very urgently for the place where you belong. And for me, that place became Israel. I was studying Hebrew. I watched Exodus like 24 times with Paul Newman. I also worked as a part-time assistant at Israel Aliyah Center. It's an actual place that helps American Jews immigrate to Israel. Aliyah means ascension. It means to rise. So I was one of those people who, when we landed at Ben Gurion Airport, when I got off the plane, I kissed the soil. And in the car on the way to my uncle's house from the airport, you guys, have you ever seen those like TikTok videos of puppy being taken to their forever home, like from a shelter like this? This was me. I was in the car and I was like, oh my God, here's a Jewish dog. Oh my God, here's a Jewish building. Oh my God, here's a Jewish tree. And there's a Jewish car with a Jewish bumper sticker on the license in Hebrew. And that meant to me that because it was Jewish, it might also be mine. And so for the next 3 weeks, there was a series of different cultural outings and different family events that were thinly disguised as matchmaking opportunities. And by the end of 3 weeks, my uncle was panicking because there was no match. And so, in his last ditch, last effort attempt to set something up, he employed his newly married daughter to host a housewarming party to invite all of the single friends of her new husband. And so it's Sunday morning. We leave my uncle's house in the city on the north, and we drive to the east to the Golan Heights, to a settlement where a newlywed couple is living. And we drive through these beautiful rolling hills, and we go through several checkpoints, and they just wave us through because we have an Israeli license plate. And then we end up in this settlement, and it's absolutely gorgeous. There are new houses being built everywhere, and we finally get to my cousin's house, and we start unloading my uncle's small SUV because it's filled with boxes. And the boxes are filled with what I guess I would call the stuff that one would get at a wedding shower. There are dishes and silverware and linens and appliances and even small furniture and art and everything. Nothing is new, but everything is of really great quality and looks amazing. And so there's still a couple of hours left to the party, and I tell my cousin, just put me to work. And so she gives me a box of utensils and tells me, just put it in the drawer, put it in the kitchen drawer. And I start unpacking it, and it's gorgeous. It's silver, it looks antique, and on the handle there's this like olive tree design, and it's beautiful. And so I finally have a moment alone with her, and I say, Tanya, my cousin, is your husband rich? And she says, why? What's going on? I said, well, I know my uncle, he's a recent immigrant, so he doesn't have this money, but it's really nice stuff. Where did you get it? And she said, this. Well, we have this program in Israel that a newly married couple can register, and then they give them a list of addresses of homes and a coupon book. And you can go to those homes and put stickers on the stuff that you want, and then they pack it up for you, and then you can pick it up from one place. So that's what my uncle did the night before. And I don't get it. I don't quite get it. And I said, what houses? Whose houses? And she says, those Arabs, we kick those Arabs out, and then we go, they have nice stuff, so we get the stuff. Because I was 18 years old. I was a stupid 18-year-old girl. And so I didn't get it, not then. And I just looked at her and I said, why do these Arabs hate us so much? And she said, I don't know, maybe because they don't like Jews, maybe they're anti-Semitic. And I said, yeah, okay. And then she said, hurry up, finish college, make Aliyah, and then, you can be my neighbor and we'll get you nice stuff and we can just live all together ever after. And I said, great. And that was the plan. That was my plan. And so before I left, one of the gifts that I got was one of my favorite gifts, was this sticker that my uncle gave me. And it was said in Hebrew on it, Ha'emim HaGolan, which means people with the Golan Heights. And it's a nationalist slogan for the Golan Heights belonging to Israel. And as soon as I got home, I proudly cleaned the bumper of my really old Ford Taurus, and I put it on there, and I drove proudly in it. And that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to devote my life to, I wanted to work in the Foreign Service, and I wanted to protect Israel from its enemies. And so I went to DePaul. I was studying Middle East policy. And one winter quarter, I took a class with a new professor who was supposed to be an expert in it. His name was Norm Finkelstein. Maybe some of you know him. Norm Finkelstein is like a radical, angry Jewish uncle. But he devoted his life to studying and fighting the disinformation of the American-Israeli policy and fighting for Palestinian freedom and liberation. And I fought him tooth and nail in my class. I was one of those students who rolled my eyes and I mocked him and I called him anti-Semitic, and I just sat there like this and I didn't believe anything that he said. And he gave me more and more stuff to read. I read Edward Said, I read Rashid Khalidi, I read all these Palestinian authors. One time, I read this anthology of Palestinian women, their stories after the first Intifada. And there was one story of this young woman whose family house in the West Bank was destroyed. And she and her mother were able to escape to Lebanon, but her brothers and her father didn't make it. And it reads just like the Diary of Anne Frank, the Palestinian Diary of Anne Frank. But now, my people are the destroyers and the murderers. And there's one line that stuck out at me, and it said something like, my mother is crying, not just about our lives, but about our homes and the things that made our home, and especially about her wedding silver, that silver that has an olive branch in its handle. And that's when it hit me. And I remembered that housewarming party. And it was a dark and snowy February night. And I finished reading. And I went into my kitchen and I opened the drawer and I got a knife. And in my slippers and in my house robe, I went downstairs to the car. My car was under a foot of snow. And I cleaned the back of my car, the back of the bumper, and I started scraping that fucking bumper sticker off my car.